Well, cat's out of the bag at this point. This is the farewell tour of our podcast of Best of the Rest, our final episodes. We've announced that here on, I want to say on air, but obviously that's not how podcasts work, but you know what I mean, on mic. We've announced it in the Discord, so everyone knows what's going on here. And we also made it clear that, we are a weekly podcast. We're aiming to release every week, but we want to make sure these final episodes are the best they can be. And if we have to take a little bit of extra time to make sure that happens, we are going to do so. And that happened with this recording. Things came up, you got some work stuff, we rescheduled a little bit, but now here we are. I just bring that up to say that I had a little bit of extra time after watching this movie. Normally I'm watching the movie recovering the day before, sometimes the morning of, but pretty close to record time. But I actually had a chance to watch a few more movies since watching this. I think I watched this movie 5 days ago, and I just had a real movie-heavy week, both on my own and with the family. And I just want a quick rundown of what I've watched in those past 5 days. First up, The Princess Bride. That was our family movie night this week, picked by a friend of the show, my wife. And let me tell you something, Andrew. That was my first time watching that movie beginning to end.
Yeah?
Yeah. I wasn't sure going into it if I had actually seen it before, because I've certainly seen some scenes before, probably from TV, like definitely him and Wallace Shawn in the Battle of Wits and the Cups. I know I've seen that scene. I've seen him and I've seen Inigo's the sword fight with Inigo and the whole speech about the six-fingered man. But a lot of stuff I had never seen before. Like I said, first time watching it beginning to end. I gotta say, it's really good. Hot take. It's a really good movie.
What a scorching take for 2026. The Princess Bride is pretty good.
I think we mentioned this on our Men in Tights episode, but I can really confirm that like the degree of difference between his Carrie Elwes as Robin Hood and Princess Bride is so small. It's basically the same performance, and that's not shade. I mean, it's great, and I love to see it. I gotta imagine Princess Bride is gotta be the reason he got cast in Men in Tights at all, but it is incredible how some of those performances are. So Princess Bride, really good. And then I watched the horror movie X for the first time. I picked up the 4K box set of the X trilogy from Barnes & Noble during a sale, and I knew very little about these movies. I had seen the trailer for X back in the day, never saw it. You've had some praise for some of the other movies in the franchise. It just, based on vibes, I just had a strong feeling I would like it. I really loved X, and spoiler alert, I watched all the movies, so I'll talk about the rest here in a moment. But X, I text a mutual friend Doug recommending this movie, and my synopsis was like, it's Psycho plus Texas Chainsaw Massacre plus Zack and Miriam make a porno. And I think that about sums it up. And what I love about it is it's so clear what the influences and references are, but I still think the end result feels fresh and new and exciting. And that is such a hard thing to balance and to achieve. But I was pretty blown away by that one. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I remember I remember when it was coming out, because it's Ty West who has done like House of the Devil, I think is what it's called.
And VHS, right? Wasn't that his big one before X?
He did part of VHS.
Okay.
But he did House of the Devil. He did The Innkeepers. And I think he did, so he directed the second honeymoon segment on VHS.
Is VHS an anthology movie?
Yeah. So there's a kind of like a bridging sequence, which is always there's some setup that leads to them finding like a stash of VHS tapes, and then the idea of the movie is that whoever has found them is watching a series of them. And there's a bunch of them now. There's VHS, VHS2, VHS Viral, VHS Beyond, VHS Halloween, VHS
Wow.
85,
Do you,
94, 99.
do you recommend these? Are they any good? I've never dove into that.
Yeah, I like them
Okay.
well enough. It's like anything with an anthology. Like there's going to be stronger segments. There's going to be weaker segments. I think it was. What is the one that I really remember liking? Was it 99? No, it was 94. I watched VHS 94. I actually liked that one quite a bit. And then 85 came out. It's 94, 99, and then 85 came out third. So I would watch them in the order they came out. Just if you are ever going to dive into all of these. So I would just start with VHS and work your way through. There are definitely different directors that appear throughout them. Some recur, some don't. Adam Wingard has done some of them. David Bruckner, who ended up doing the film The Ritual and The Night House, and I think he also did the Hellraiser remake a couple years ago. Ty West is in there, Glenn McQuaid, Joe Swanberg, the Radio Silence guys that do some of the recent Scream movies. It's Nacho Vigalondo is in there. It's a pretty interesting little group that have all been a part of these, and sometimes people come back around for another round. It's pretty cool. I generally like the franchise. I like it. Like I said, it's there's ups and downs, but I like them. So, but yeah, Ty West is some of his stuff I really, really like. Some of it doesn't quite do much for me. Like he's doing a Christmas Carol movie now that I got to be honest doesn't really interest me very much. But
No.
it's especially with Johnny Depp as Ebenezer Scrooge. But like House of the Devil, I really, really liked for its kind of like slow burn approach. I loved X. I remember when X came out, there was kind of like I remember when X came out, and I'll be honest, for me personally, X is probably the one I enjoy the least. Just because it's not a bad thing, but definitely a lot of what it's doing is obviously it's wearing its influences on its sleeve. It's not trying to run away from them. But I did like it quite a bit. But I remember at the end of X, they showed the trailer for Pearl, and when that trailer for Pearl played, I was just like, whoa, what's that? Wait a minute. Why is that at the end here? Why wasn't this whole movie? So X to me is a perfect setting. It like kind of gets all the players in place, gets everything figured out. But then I kind of liked what came later more personally. But
we'll dive into those because I did watch them. I'm going through I got my letterbox pulled up here. But what I watched next was we actually had a second family movie night this week. Love watching movies with the fam, and it was my turn to pick. And our daughter, she's 15 now, and she's at the age where she can watch more like adult or serious movies and really get into it. And I thought, great, let's just dive in. Let's watch my favorite movie of all time. And we watched Memento. It was my first time watching it in years, but I've seen this movie a million times, of course. Friend of the show, my wife, had never seen it. Obviously, our daughter had never seen it. And look, I'm going to be full of hot takes. Memento, it's still really good. It's just as effective as ever. That movie is so tight. I mean, I'm not going to go off on a big thing about Memento. What hasn't been said about the movie? I love it. The fam enjoyed it. I will say I'm trying to remember the last time I watched it. It was definitely pre-pandemic, probably like 2016 or 17. There was a screening in theaters that I went to, and it had a Q&A, a filmed Q&A with Guillermo del Toro and Christopher Nolan, which I love both guys, but I have trouble understanding Guillermo sometimes, and Christopher Nolan has like negative chemistry. It was a very odd Q&A to sit through. But all that to say is my first time watching the movie in a long time, and I remember the end being way more ambiguous because you can find online debates about what the truth actually is and what means what, but that kind of all seems to be there on screen. It seemed much more clear to me than I remember. But yeah, it's still a perfect movie as far as I'm concerned. Perfect script for sure. It's Memento. Joey Panton's best performance, maybe, in a career full of great performances. I don't know. It's great.
It's a great movie. Like I said, you're just scorching takes today, man.
After that, I watched Pearl, and this time I watched it with a friend of the show, my wife. She's like, "Oh yeah, I think I've heard about that." She doesn't love jump scares or horror movies, but she was like, "This seems like this is one I could probably watch." So she watched it over the edge of her laptop as she played WoW. But she watched the movie, but she has something to look away to in case anything got too out there.
Yep.
But
Too intense. Yeah.
Pearl's probably the tamest of the three, but there is some scenes at some point. But I love this from like the first shot of the movie. As soon as I saw what they were doing with the colors, like the Technicolor look they were going for, I'm like, man, I'm sold. And I knew nothing about this movie. The only thing I knew is I saw a GIF of Pearl dancing with an all black background and that big smile, and I'm like, what is this? And why is it so unnerving when it's just a woman dancing? But I absolutely love
if only
this
you
movie.
knew.
This I don't know. This took so many swings. You know, like we talked about X, you know, wearing its influences on its sleeve, and I I love that movie, but I wouldn't say it's taking too many risks as far as like if you like horror, you like slasher, you're probably gonna dig this movie. Pearl's really pushing beyond for something else, and it succeeds. Yeah. It lands. Like it's got great actors. This is the first time I've seen David Cornsweet in anything other than Superman, and he was wonderful. The look, the colors never get old. I didn't, despite being a prequel, I still didn't know where it was going and how it's going to get there. And it was a fun ride. And last thing I'll say about these two movies, X and Pearl, is I don't think I've ever seen another set of movies work together quite like this. They are technically sequel and prequel, I guess, but they're to me like sister films. You can watch them in either order. They work standalone completely. You could watch one without knowing the other one even exists. But if you watch them both, they both complement each other. Whatever order you watch them in, you'll pick up on more things based on the other movie. I've never seen a movie with a relationship quite like that. I've seen like there's movies where it's like one event and one movie's from one perspective and one's from another, like maybe. But I've never seen like two standalone movies in the same universe that complement each other so well. I'm super impressed with how these puzzle pieces fit together. But yeah, Pearl was great. Pearl's loved it.
Yeah, it was it's definitely it's unconventional in the sense too that like Pearl, I guess, was already shot by the time X came out. So like it was already
It was
done.
A secret production because I was like I saw their release dates for the same year. I was like, well, how did he pull that off? And he did back-to-back productions, but like just didn't announce the second movie. When by the time it was announced, they were in post-production on it. It's like how? I guess it helps that it's super low budget, it's independent, and it was during pandemic times. There's no huge names in it, so I guess it's easier to keep it a secret.
I don't really remember because if X and Pearl were also shot at like the same set on the same houses, like because it's supposed to be the same sets at the same houses, then you're already there. You're just dramatically changing the lighting and a bunch of other things because X is like almost all at night and it's all dark and it's all like, but then whereas Pearl is almost completely in the daytime.
Yeah,
which is one of my favorite things about it is that it's very vivid. And like, yeah, I was very surprised at where that movie was going because like you said, you don't really know. You can guess and you can think, but the only thing you really have to know is that Pearl lives through it because she has to be the old woman in X. That's about the only thing you know. Which is also what makes it kind of such an interesting swing because it's a prequel in the sense that like only one, like, you know, really nothing else about it. Like you have no other barometer really at all for what the rest of this movie is going to hold. And it is very interesting in that regard. And just I think I can say that, like, objectively, I think Pearl is the strongest of the films, in the sense that I think it's telling the tightest narrative, because I think it's almost completely focused on Mia Goth. And she's obviously killing it. So when you're hyper focused on her performance, and that's the carrying the movie, it's easy for that to be the strongest installment. But just the tragedy of the character, in a sense, because, obviously the character becomes this, she has no problem killing people at a certain point. But to see that kind of final descent into badness, and what brings that on, this desperate hope that there's more to her life than this. I'm going to be a star. Like, that's her whole thing. And the crushing realization that that's not going to happen, that she doesn't fit the mold. It's not going to work. And then you parallel that to Maxine's parts in X, and then eventually Maxine, of like not fitting the mold, but being like, I'm going to still do this anyway. And I'm going to do it through sheer force of will. And it's just very well put together. It's a strong narrative. Like I said, probably the strongest of the three. And like you said, it's to make a stealth prequel to a movie that no one's seen yet, that you don't even know if people are going to react to. Like, it's just such a weird thing to do. And somehow they got away with it. And it worked.
Pulled it off, yeah.
And then obviously at the end of Pearl is the teaser for Maxine.
I didn't get these teasers because they're not on the disc when you watch them at home, but I understand if you see it in theaters. Yeah, I stayed after credits to all of them, and there wasn't the teaser. But
what a nerd.
I think maybe I don't know. Say maybe it helped my experience with Maxine. Which the next on my Letterboxd list is actually X again. I rewatched X because now that friend of the show, my wife, watched Pearl. She's like, well, I got to see all of them. So I rewatched X and we caught up before we dug into Maxine.
Yeah.
And going back to like how you can watch these movies in either order, like spoiler free, but like watching X after Pearl, there's stuff to pick up. Like when Pearl says, I hate blondes. That line doesn't mean much to you other than a giggle on the first watch. But after seeing Pearl, there's more depth to that line. And it's just very cool, the symbiotic relationship between these two movies.
It's a prequel that truly enhances the previous film. It makes it better.
And then, we watched Maxine, the third. And what I was saying is maybe my viewing was enhanced because in reading some discussions online about these movies afterwards, apparently the trailer kind of left it ambiguous as far as whether or not Maxine was going to be the killer in Maxine or be the victim again or survive another thing. And I think a lot of people were kind of fantasy booking where the series was going to go. And even without seeing that trailer, I think I kind of did that myself. Like, oh man, what's Maxine going to be like after these movies, after seeing what happened with Pearl? And Maxine was not what I expected. I don't know if it was what anybody expected for watching the first two movies. And it's one that I've got to sit with a little bit longer. I liked it. I enjoyed the movie. Kevin Bacon, probably Mark Strong award winner there. He just chewed up the scenery, had that delicious Louisiana accent.
Like, just
so good.
Just so greasy. Like his skin is wet the whole movie, and it makes me so uncomfortable. I don't like it for a moment.
It's like he stepped out of the swamp into whatever scene he's currently in.
And Giancarlo Esposito's in there as her manager, and just I will say this. The way I've always put this is, if you're asking me what the best movie of the three is, I will say that it's Pearl, pretty much unequivocally. I did manage to see all three of these on the big screen. I didn't see Pearl when it first came out, but they did a re-release of Pearl at one point, and I made sure to go see it then. But if you ask me for the one I think is the coolest, I'm probably going to say it's Maxine, because that movie is just drip. It's obviously set in the 80s. It's embodying that decade in a way that a lot of other movies only superficially do. That's kind of my problem with stuff nowadays when it feels like, oh, it's set in the 80s. And it's like, That's usually just an excuse to have a bunch of outdated references. Whereas I think Maxine actually goes a decent way to just trying to actually make the movie feel like it's set in the time versus just trying to be like, haha, reference. And it's like, but I really, really liked Maxine. Obviously, there's a lot of Giallo throwback type stuff, like the killer with the black gloves, things like that. So it's kind of playing in a each movie is kind of playing in a very different realm in a way. But yeah, so the Maxine trailer. Now, what I will say, and this may be considered a spoiler, if you have not watched X, I would rewatch it before watching Maxine because, spoilers, folks. There are things that happen in Maxine that are set up in X.
I was a little disappointed that Maxine is not completely standalone because I love the way Ship seeing those first two movies totally standalone, but enhanced by seeing the other. Maxine is very much a direct sequel to X. There's even flashbacks and references, and like you're saying, stuff that you need to. Thankfully for me, I watched X 2 times in the days leading up to watching Maxine. It was pretty fresh on my mind, but yes, it is definitely a direct sequel, and I like it. I gotta sit with it a little bit longer, but. What's great about these movies, and again, I've kind of read, in reading online and the reception, they're all pretty well received, but like, I see a lot of people making cases for which one is their favorite, and it seems almost even split between the three on who likes what the most. You like Maxine the most? I think maybe I like X the most, but that could just because it's the first one I watched and introduced me to the world. Pearl is also great. I don't think anybody's crazy for saying Pearl is the best. And that's a good problem to have whenever, like, you're like, all three are good. I lean towards this one, but it's, very, very strong trilogy. And Christmas Carol movie excluded. I am very interested in what Ty West turns out later in his career. Friend of the show, my wife, we watched Maxine last night. And it was still pretty early when it finished, and I turned it into a double feature, and we watched Body Double, which I had seen before. Friend of the show, my wife, had not, and I was like, you're gonna love it. It is so weird, and it didn't even really dawn on me how related, or how similar it is to the X movies, and especially Maxine it is, but that movie is bonkers. And similarly, it's doing this thing where Body Double is a movie from the 80s made by Brian De Palma, but what he's clearly doing is making a modern at the time, Hitchcock film. Mm-hmm. And despite you can see the bones, see the influences, know what he's going for, it feels so fresh and different and new, and that is very hard to pull off. And I like a lot, if not most, of Quentin Tarantino's movies. But I think there's plenty of times when he does the grindhouse thing, the 70s thing, the throwback thing, where I don't think he's really saying anything with it other than I like this era of filmmaking. And that's fine. It's cool. But these movies, I think, are using it with a purpose. They're using it to say something either about cinema or about the story, or there's a narrative purpose. And in the case of Body Double, he uses a lot of very outdated techniques like a rear projection while they're driving and very clear, obvious sets. But there's the artificiality is intentional. And once you dive into like the story and what's happening and who's setting up who, it all informs the narrative, and it's beautiful. And there's a Frankie Goes to Hollywood music video just dropped into the middle of that movie, and it's the best thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta rewatch Body Double now, but so good. I think I told my friend, like my friend, I think a lot of people. I don't want to give any spoilers for Maxine. I mean, I guess it's a couple years old now. I don't really feel like that we necessarily need to avoid it. But there's a reveal of sorts in Maxine, and that for a lot of people, I think they point to that. Like everything up to that point, I think people are largely with this kind of mystery killer that's killing seemingly people around Maxine and related to her. And the reveal, I think, of what's actually happening was underwhelming for some. but it's just so cool. It's like I can't. It's just like when I'm watching that movie, I'm just like, man, this is so cool. And like, there's that bit at the beginning where ZZ Top plays, and I was just like, this song is a banger. I was like, man, this is like, there's all these moments where I'm just like, everything in this movie is cool. And like, there's a bit of oh God, what's that Judas Priest song that plays when that guy dies? It's when the guy at the video store dies. Prisoner of Your Eyes by Judas Priest, which is not a Judas Priest song anybody thinks about, but it's a fantastic song. So just like, the music, the setting, the dripped in neon, the Giallo homages, which Body Double has to an extent as well too. Because I mean, Giallo obviously, like, it's one of those things, like, everything informs everything else. So like any suitable form of horror or suspense thriller in the 60s or 70s is probably taking something from Hitchcock to an extent. So everything kind of just falls back upon itself. Maxine is just, I have no problem saying that it's not the best of the three, but it is probably my favorite just because it's really cool. That's all I got. I got nothing else, but great movies.
Yeah, it was a good week of movies for me, and it all started with the movie we are talking about today, which is also,
30 minutes later,
I say,
Cop.
Very cool. Yeah, let's hit that theme song and talk about it.
We're not talking about the best of them. We're just talking about the rest of them.
Not the worst parts, but the best parts. And the best parts, we have the best of the rest.
Hello, and welcome to Best of the Rest. My name is Chris Logan, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host of Internal Affairs, Andrew Williams. Say something to the listeners, Andrew.
I gave you a chance to be a real podcaster, Chris, and you blew it.
Each week, we take a second look at a movie that was poorly received upon release and challenge ourselves to only talk about the things we like and what the movie does well. It's the farewell tour, and this week, we are talking the 1997 film Copland, a movie we have managed to talk about a ton over the years on this podcast. Even friend of the show, Adil Rafai, he was our guest during The Last Action Hero, and at some point in that episode, he brings up Copland. He's like, you guys seen this movie Copland? We're like, yeah, we talk about it all the time. It's very good, and now we get to do a proper deep dive, talk about everything we like, all the positives of this movie, and how great it is. Andrew, what is your history with this film? I know you weren't seeing this in theaters back in 1997. When did you first come across it? How much have you watched it over the years?
I've watched it a decent amount over the years. I don't actually know how it first came onto my radar. Probably just like when you start reading about movies and you start getting into any kind of examination of Stallone's career, especially. And then obviously James Mangold, obviously getting into some a little bit more repute lately as he kind of did things like obviously the underrated The Wolverine.
Yes.
But then as you get into Logan, Ford versus Ferrari, Indiana Jones 5, but even stuff like Walk the Line, it's kind of nuts to go back and see Copland there. I don't know, did I turn you on to Copland, or did you know about it before?
I think it was you. I think it happened on mic. So, some historian could go through our podcast and figure out the moment. But I think
no way to check. No way to check.
Probably our Judge Dredd episode, if I had to guess, because that episode came pretty early on. I went on a 30-minute rant about how much I love Stallone, and you were probably like, if you love Stallone,
Copland?
Yeah, you just see Copland, and that's probably when I saw it.
So I don't know exactly when it kind of came onto my radar exactly. It was probably within the last 10 years or so. But it is just great. It is just unbelievable. Like, you thought our last episode was bad when we just talked Batman. This or the Matrix, like, this is gonna be even worse. Like, we're gonna have to keep this under 3 hours. Fortunately, we have a hard out, so we'll have to keep it slightly condensed. But yeah, this movie is great. But so obviously I ran into it at some point, watched it a bunch of times since then. And it's just really good. It's just a really, really good movie, turns out.
Yeah, I watched it within the past 2 years because I first heard about it in the making of our podcast, and I watched it shortly after. I'm sure I said on mic that I loved it because, again, we managed to bring up this movie all the time. I rewatched it, of course, preparing for this episode. I actually watched the director's cut. I think it's called director's cut. Is it called a director's? I think it's a director's cut.
I think it is
12 minutes longer. I didn't do a deep dive onto added scenes, but I will say that it was still great. It didn't feel overly long or extra scenes. This is the kind of movie that, like, yeah, I'll take more of it. Let me live in this world a little bit longer, and I was happy to do so. The movie is awesome, full of great performances, and I'm excited to talk about it. But first, let's set the stage here. This movie is released August 15th, 1997. It's made on a budget of $15 million, which, Andrew, I don't know how they pull that off with this cast. And, like, it takes place in a small town, but there's a lot of locations. It's not like it all takes place in 2 or 3 locations. I don't know how they managed a budget like that. Like, half these actors must have been taking a cut from what they normally
scale or whatever,
ask
yeah.
for. At the box office, it's a modest success. It brings in $63.7 million, which is pretty good return on a $15 million budget. Critically, it's well received. 75% critic score. I'm actually shocked to see the audience is lower, 67%. You guys are wrong. That should be in the 90s. But what's interesting is, like, this is the farewell tour. We can cover whatever we want. But this movie, like, almost, quote unquote, qualifies for our podcast on our normal standards. I mean, it's well received critically, but, like, and it makes money, but somehow this movie has almost no legacy. And I'm very perplexed by this. To me, this is like, I mean, it is like peak dad cinema. I think I actually left a review for this on Letterboxd. I rarely do reviews, but I said top 5 film in the dad movie genre. It's like this, it's Heat, every James Bond movie. This feels like the kind of movie that makes a small splash at the box office, is a huge hit at the video store, and plays on cable nonstop for the next 10 years. Heat, similarly, I don't have the box office in front of me, but I know that wasn't a huge hit upon release, but, like, it's now just synonymous with dad cinema and gangster cinema of the 90s. It's like Goodfellas, Heat, Casino, and
he made like $200 million. Like,
okay,
he made money.
It was a good hit. It had a much bigger budget than $15 million.
It had like a $60 million budget. It has a great box office.
Anyway, I don't know how I never heard of Copland until you brought it up on Mike. And, like, I asked my dad if he had ever seen it, and he had never heard of it. I'm like, Dad, look at this cast. Like, this movie's awesome. Like, you got to see this. Every dad in America needs to see this.
Every person
but it just
in the world needs to see Copland.
But, like, it has, it's a modest hit at the box office. I don't remember trailers. I don't remember seeing this VHS on the shelves at Blockbuster. It's kind of a mystery to me how this movie doesn't have the legacy it does with the cast, with the reception. It's weird.
The box office is a little interesting. I did take a look. So it opens number 1 the weekend it comes out, makes a take of 13.5 million. The top 10 are very interesting. Several alums of the show here. But coming in at number 2 is Air Force One. In its 4th week of release is up to $130 million. At number 3 is Conspiracy Theory. Number 4, also opening this exact weekend, Event Horizon, which means I probably
Nice.
talked about this exact same weekend when we did Event Horizon. So I'll make this quick. But number 5 is Spawn, in its 3rd week of release, up to $46 million. Number 6 is George of the Jungle, in its 5th week of release, up to $85 million. Number 7 is Men in Black, in its 7th week of release, up to $225 million. Number 8 is Picture Perfect. What the heck is that? I have no idea. That is in its 3rd week of release, up to $23 million. Number 9 is Contact, the old Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey space science religion movie. And then number 10, Air Bud, in its 3rd week of release. Yeah, Copland hits number 1 and then falls to number 6 in its 2nd weekend, has a 45% drop off, is forced out of the top by new releases G.I. Jane, Money Talks, and even Mimic. So it goes from 1 to number 6. Box office drops by 45%. By the next weekend, it's at number 9. And so, yeah, but within a month or two, Copland has kind of largely been forced out of the top 10.
Pretty good weekend, though. I think I counted a total of 4 movies that we've covered on this podcast. All that one.
A few.
Weekend.
So, but yeah, so it comes out kind of fast, but doesn't have a lot of legs. Kind of slowly trails off after that. But it is. It's a fine take. A budget of $15 million for this cast is kind of nuts. And I guess really like there's a lot of names in it and there's a lot of people but I guess like the only people I guess would be expensive at the time would have probably been Stallone and DeNiro. Keitel is we know who he is, but he's probably more of a character actor. And Robert Patrick and Michael Rappaport and guys like that, like we know who they are, but they're all character actors. So Stallone is definitely going to be your big name, and if he's taking scale, and De Niro's in a very, very small part also taking scale, that's probably how they're able to work around that. But obviously that speaks to the quality of the project that they were willing to do that. Obviously, they don't have to do that. De Niro in 97 is De Niro, and Stallone in 97 is Stallone. They can do whatever they want, but and I'm glad they did do this. This is probably, I would say, top 2 Stallone performance.
Yeah, I think that's.
We'll talk more about that in a minute, but
not a hot take at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie is written and directed by James Mangold. Man, I'm excited to talk about James Mangold on this podcast. A director I'm pretty fascinated with. You kind of alluded to this earlier, but he's like a big name all-tour director now, but I feel like he doesn't get that status until Logan. And that's certainly the first time I really took notice of his name. And after that, it gets prestige projects like Ford v Ferrari, Indiana Jones. He just did Complete Unknown in 2024. I haven't seen it yet. Nominated for awards. Seems to be pretty good, well received. But then you dig into his filmography, and it's like, oh, I've seen and I like almost all of these movies. So going all the way back to the beginning, has an independent movie in 1995 called Heavy, which I have not seen, but I'm kind of interested in now looking through it. And this is his second film, Copland. So you have a almost unproven writer-director who gets this cast together and makes a movie that is, dare I say, this masterful. We'll be talking about it, but his hand on tone is incredible, and his ability to the sprawling story and the variety of characters in this movie, it's fantastic work. Doubly impressive that he also wrote the movie. 1999 is Girl Interrupted. I think I saw it once upon a time. I certainly remember that movie coming out. Also well received, I believe. 2001, Kate and Leopold, the weird time travel rom com with Hugh Jackman. I never saw it, but I just remember seeing
my mom's a big fan.
I'm sure. I remember seeing the trailers and being like, what a weird premise. But I'm certainly interested. Maybe I'll have to go check it out. 2003, Identity, which is a movie that didn't make a huge splash at the time. I do remember seeing it. I remember the twist, and that's probably what the movie's most well known for now. But I've seen a lot of people say in recent years, like, hey, that weird murder mystery movie, Identity, it's actually a banger. Like, we're probably sleeping. You go back and check it out. So I do want to give that movie a rewatch, because I don't remember much beyond the twist, but I would love to see how that game kind of plays out.
I like that one quite a bit. I do like Identity quite a bit. It's a little bit of and then there were none type. 10 of us are in an isolated location and somebody's starting to kill us, and then there's obviously the seal is the twist, like you said, the big twist of the movie, which is what makes or breaks the whole thing depending on who you are. But I am quite a fan of it.
2005 directs a little movie called Walk the Line. He's also credited screenwriter there. The movie's a huge hit. Everyone saw it. Everyone liked it. But I don't remember being like, and now James Mangold has arrived. I wonder what he's going to do next. I feel like he just still doesn't reach that level. 2007, 3:10 to Yuma. It's a remake, but a very, very good one. I love that movie. I had the DVD. I watched it a ton. 2010, Night and Day, which is a fun, it's Tom Cruise and
Cameron Diaz.
Cameron Diaz, thank you. I was about to start listing her credits. The Mask, Green Hornet, Cameron Diaz, which is a fun like sort of play on Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible action star persona. It's a good time. Then does The Wolverine, which we have both sung the praises of. It's like the unsung Wolverine movie. It's really freaking good. Probably the most ripped Hugh Jackman ever was as the character. He's absolutely insane in that movie. But the movie is wonderful. But it's not until Logan where people are like, and Logan is great. Like it's one of the best comic book movies ever made. But I feel like Logan is where he finally starts to get his flowers. And then I talked about Ford v Ferrari, what comes after that. But I don't know, Andrew. Do you kind of feel where I'm coming from here as far as the respect James Mangold and the weight his name has carried over the years, and it seems like it kind of lagged behind?
It's a little odd because you've basically got like relatively high profile projects, but he still kind of comes off like a journeyman director in a lot of ways. Like what he's doing is still kind of like very workmanlike. And I remember people saying that was kind of a disappointment with Indiana Jones 5, that it wasn't going to have Spielberg's touch. And I was like, are we all just mad at, James Mangold now? But I think there's a so I'm not entirely sure, but I do think now he's kind of at a point where he kind of can do the high profile, the kind of art house projects. Yeah, so, and you think about the stuff he's got coming up, which is stuff like a Swamp Thing movie. Like, he's kind of entered that point where he truly can just do whatever he wants. But yeah, for a long time here, I would say that, like, it's odd that, like, he's either got script revisions or writing credits on a lot of the things he's done, the only exceptions being 3:10 to Yuma, The Wolverine, and Ford versus Ferrari. Otherwise, he's this writer-director that's just kind of consistently churning out, at bare minimum, very entertaining films, and doesn't seem to get the level of appreciation for that you would think.
I have a theory about it. I mentioned this on Mike before. It was praise given to Rob Reiner. I think at the time I said it in the episode. I couldn't remember who said it, but I remember it was BJ Novak, writer on The Office, and he plays Ryan on The Office. So he's a writer and director, and he said that Rob Reiner is the best director of all time, in his opinion. And his reasoning for it was that you don't see Rob Reiner's touch on screen. That he always does what's right for that project, for that script. And it's always different, but always masterful. And Rob Reiner has this insane run of movies that are all iconic and all very different. Opening this episode, going to talk about Princess Bride. Obviously, he starts his career with this Spinal Tap, but Stand By Me, Misery, iconic films, all very different. And I don't know if I 1000% agree with that take on directors, that the best director is the invisible director. You don't see their touch. They do what's right. But I can respect where he's coming from. I do think there is something to that. I also think there's something to directors.
I think it's definitely a skill. I think it's definitely an underrated skill, because there is this idea, it's one of the criticisms that, Scorsese had the audacity to criticize Marvel movies once. So everyone had to start like picking apart all of his movies and say, oh, well, he just makes gangster movies. What does he know? And it's like, first off, no, he doesn't just make gangster movies. Weirdos. Also, the man is allowed to think whatever he wants. And yes, maybe some of his comments come off a little, okay, boomer, okay, grandpa, let's get you back to bed. But like, he's allowed to think whatever he wants at this point. But like, it's this idea that like being able to exist and excel in a variety of genres is a tough skill, because there are directors who can't really do that. There are directors who kind of have to stay in their lane. And if they deviate too far from that lane, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work out. Like Kevin Smith has talked about like having to do action scenes and how it's horrible. Like he's not good at them. And it's just, something he realizes as a director, that's just not where I should lean, because that's just not going to go well, because that's not the kind of stuff he wants to do. And it's an underrated skill for sure, to be able to exist in so many genres and to be able to do it well. I guess that's the other thing. Like Rob Reiner didn't just make movies in other genres. He made great movies in several genres. So yeah, I don't know that I'd say it's like the ultimate barometer for what makes you the best director. And like, obviously, like the idea that like you're invisible and people don't know it's you, like that almost feels a little backhanded in a way. Like you're so good at your job, no one knows you're doing it. But like it's to the point where it's like, yeah, but like there are directors who definitely have their flourishes and their tendencies and the things they like to do. And like, those are some of my favorite directors of all time. And they're some of the best directors of all time. So I wouldn't say like, I don't think obvious touches makes you lesser or something. I don't know. I don't really follow that part of it.
I don't think it's the measuring stick for a director, but I do think it is a valid praise to someone like Rob Reiner specifically. I think it's very impressive, like you're saying, how he can do different genres and they're like all-timers in every genre. I think you can apply some of that to James Mangold. His movies don't quite cover the spread of genre like Rob Reiner's did, but there is a lot of variety to them. And I don't know what the quote-unquote Mangold touches are. I can't point to the specific reaction shot he uses, whatever. I feel like he is developing new touches with each project, and I think it's something to be admired. I logged this movie on Letterboxd. I was talking about Letterboxd opening this episode. I did notice a review for this movie on Letterboxd from David Sims, critic for The Atlantic, host of the Blank Check podcast. And in the body of his review on Letterboxd, he says, "What people didn't realize when they raved about Logan being a Western is that every movie James Mangold makes is a Western, but especially this one." And maybe that's the through line to his career, the Western, but yeah,
the Bob
Copland's
Dylan movie's
totally
a Western.
Yeah, I don't know, but I haven't seen that one yet. But Copland, yeah, totally a Western, like a sheriff taking a stand against corruption in his town. I can see it.
You could 100% transfer this movie to the Old West setting and change nothing, basically.
Yeah.
Like you could 100%. Maybe not entirely. There's some modern cop problems that it definitely deals with, but like the idea of like the small town sheriff standing up against the big city cops, like that's classic Western stuff. That's It is just great. This is I love this other review. So many of these 90s indie crime dramas depend on Michael Rappaport being a dipshit who fucks it up for everyone. That's like I guess that's a whole subgenre, just like Michael Douglas gets horny and messes up his life, which is a thing that happens so many times in the 90s. That's just to the point where it's like, man, Michael Douglas just like needs to see a therapist because this dude just has too much sex. He needs to figure it out. But anyway,
I mean, that's probably
MVP,
one of the movies. He sees a therapist and they have sex, and that messes up his life. It's probably
this review ends with anyway. MVP is DeNiro's sandwich. But
I love that. They never give you any napkins.
Get out of here. Go to lunch. I already have lunch. Go to lunch. This movie is so good, and we're gonna have to find a way to only talk about it for like an hour and change, which is gonna be tough. But
right. let's dive in, Andrew. You ready?
Yeah. Yep.
A group of NYPD officers, led by Lieutenant Ray Donlin, establish a community in the small town of Garrison, New Jersey, outside of Internal Affairs jurisdiction. After a young officer, nicknamed Superboy, wrongfully guns down a couple motorists, Ray and his friends help fake his death and hide him in Garrison. Lieutenant Mo Tilden, an IA, knows that Ray is involved with the cover-up, and visits Garrison to plead with Sheriff Freddie Heflin to help investigate Ray. But Freddie feels indebted to Ray for helping him get the sheriff position and has trouble seeing Ray as corrupt. But once Superboy shows up on Freddie's doorstep, he can't overlook the problem any longer and decides to finally step up. That's the bones. There's a lot more characters involved, just some twists and turns. It's a pretty dense movie, not confusing or hard to follow, but there's a lot going on here. So let's just do it. Let's jump in. But first things first, Andrew, before we get to these scenes in this plot, in the story, in the twists and turns, we got to talk about the cast. And holy hell, what a cast this movie has. Andrew, you know what we got to do. We got to start with the high point, the best casting, best performance of the movie. Because every episode recognizes one person and goes so far above and beyond the Call of Duty that they actually elevate the quality of the entire film with their performance. And we recognize that person by giving them the Mark Strong Award. So, Andrew, kick us off. Who is getting a Mark Strong Award for Copland?
I think it's pretty clear, at least from the way I've talked about this movie and everything, that it's going to Sylvester Stallone as Sheriff Freddie Heflin. This is, for my money, I think the best performance of Stallone's career. The way you've kind of you described it to me, like off mic before the episode to a point, is that there is just zero ego here from Stallone. In an era where, Demolition Man is not that long before this, and Demolition Man was a pretty sizable hit. The full on, this is 100% against type. This is 100% against his character. Stallone is the one that, although Stallone in the Harvey Keitel role could have also been really good. That's a different movie, but Stallone probably could have done that too. Stallone is the dirty cop. I'm just saying that could have been. There's something there.
Okay.
But here, more so, I guess that would play him a little bit more towards type, where he kind of gets to be the tough, brash. I get to be the action hero type that eventually, turns into the villain. But he gains 40 pounds for this role. It is the dumpiest, saddest, most pathetic looking man ever. I see Stallone in this movie and I'm like, yeah, I could beat that guy up.
If this was somehow your first Stallone movie, if you had never heard of this guy, it's the first movie you see him in, no way would you think, oh, that's an 80s action star. That's the, ripped muscle. There's no way that would enter your mind.
Never. And so the fact that he's willing to go to those lengths to appear disheveled, beyond just you could have just acted this. You could have done fat suits and stuff like that, which they probably still did to an extent, because I know there was reshoots where he didn't have the weight and things like that. But also just in the performance, this man, like I say this not backhandedly. Freddie Heflin is one of the most pathetic men on the planet. Like he is literally like barely existing as a person. Like he lives in a town where there is nothing more than basically he's the sheriff of the police in a town full of cops where there is basically no expectation that he needs to do anything. He lives his brain is stuck in the past at the one accomplishment he has in his life. His failure to become a member of the NYPD is the thing that hangs over him the most. And he's just really pathetic. And it's the point. It's like the whole point of the story is eventually Freddie has to stand up and find his spine and realize that he can't just let all this keep happening once he realizes what's going on. But for Stallone to take on that role and to put himself out there that way and to genuinely just like go for it in a way that he never really has before and really hasn't since, is just something to watch. Like you said, there's no ego here at all. And that is, I think, and I don't necessarily mean ego is necessarily a bad thing, but just in the sense that like there's no like contractual obligation that like, he needs to be this, this brash action hero at the end of the movie. Like we talked about how the shootout at the end is still kind of gritty and kind of dirty. And actually the person who kind of does most of the work is Ray Liotta.
Yeah. Stallone never looks badass in this movie, even when he's saving the day.
And his one line, like I love it in the finale when like he doesn't say anything until he shoots Harvey Keitel, and Harvey Keitel is on the ground saying something, and Stallone can't hear him, and he literally just goes like, "Ray, I can't hear you." And
I love that's
the
so
extent.
much.
That's the extent of his quips. That's the extent of everything.
Yeah,
and it's just such a layered performance. It's such a like. And it's that, and it just even then, like he doesn't want to believe the truth. Like he knows what it is. Like the movie opens with like him witnessing the bomb squad woman giving Ray Liotta something, and he watches it. He literally sees it happen and just doesn't do anything. And then eventually, kind of pieces it all together later. He has this kind of usual suspects moment later, where like all the stuff on the board finally clicks together. But like it's just such a good performance, and I love the little hints of the character. Like. There's a bit later, and I actually love this moment, but like it's when he's doing the carnival game, and Robert Patrick's trying to intimidate him, and he misses the first shot, and he's like, "Well, you're gonna have to hit all 5 now in order to win," and then he just proceeds to hit all 5, and there's just little moments like that show that like, oh, there are things about this guy, there are more layers here than you realized, and maybe he's not that pathetic, and if the moment ever came that he had to do something, he wouldn't be, but like it's still all buried in this just sad shell of a man who's given up. Basically, he doesn't have any desire to be more than he is, and the movie is about him realizing he has to be more than he is, but not in like a classic action hero way. Like this is not an action hero's ending. This is a man who limps to the finish. That's what this is. This is not a This is not a man who goes out in a blaze of glory. This isn't Cliffhanger. This isn't, First Blood. This isn't even, compared to like Commando or something. This is not a man who walks away from the explosion. This is a man who gets his back burned by the explosion and then limps to the hospital and dies in the driveway. It's not a hero's ending in the sense that, he never looks cool. And even after he survives, and he's started this whole cascade of dominoes, and it cuts back to him in his town, he looks the same, and he acts the same, and he is the same. And it's just such a great performance that I like. For me personally, obviously Rocky being what it is, this is the best Stallone has ever done. And it makes me kind of sad in a lot of ways that he's never, in my mind, even really tried to do something like this again. And it's just great. It's just a great performance. It's great on every level.
What's up, bud?
I love you.
I love you, buddy. Mwah. Okay, I gotta finish the show, okay?
What a cute kid.
Okay. Well, look, I agree that Sylvester Stallone is also getting the Mark Strong Award here, but it's a great cast, as we've talked about and alluded to. Great performances. We're going to talk about them. But yeah, Stallone, I mean, he goes all in, puts his ego aside, dives into his character. I probably can't go as far as saying it's his all-time best performance. You know what my feelings on Rocky. It's my all-time favorite movie character, like in cinema. So yeah, I guess that has to be my favorite Stallone performance throughout those movies. But Stallone is always best whenever he allows himself to be vulnerable. Like the action stuff is also cool, but like Rocky is always that balance of like vulnerable and giving all he got in the ring. And even the Rambo series, even though it quickly devolves into nothing but action star, if you remember, like First Blood, the big scene of that, literally the climax in the movie is them breaking down crying. It's this really powerful ending to this, almost a deconstruction of the character, the action star persona before it even really has developed. Now, you watch that movie now and it's 90 minutes of him being a badass and killing people with knives and stuff. And then there's a little moment at the end. Probably could have used a little bit more of that touch. But regardless, showing some vulnerability. And here is almost it's like a flip of the ratio of like a First Blood, where he is just vulnerable and pathetic for 90% of it. And there's just 10% of he's got enough juice to get it done. And it's incredible. And I agree with you. I wish there was more like this in his filmography. There's plenty of... God, I love Demolition Man. And I don't think that performance needs to be anything other than what it is. But there's room in his filmography to also do some stuff like this. And, as fun as some of the all-out action stuff is, he clearly has the skill and passion to do something deeper and more heartfelt. It doesn't come to the surface as often as you would like. In large part, I think, because of ego, and he wants to be the big action star on screen. And that's, people have written books about the man and his ego. But yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I love what he's doing here. I think it's incredible that an unproven director like this, I read a quote that Stallone said Mangold is the best director he ever worked with. I don't know what those meetings were like for him to gather this cast together and get him to turn in these performances, but yeah, Mangold been killing it for a lot longer than we've been giving him credit for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love Stallone in this movie. I agree. We'll talk about him more in scenes. But we got a lot to get to, so let's talk about again, as I think Mike Lynch said on our Discord, character actor of the movie, Harvey Keitel, Lieutenant Ray Dauntlet, or our main villain here, the leader of the corrupt cops. Harvey Keitel, I primarily know. First thing I think of is Reservoir Dogs.
Yep.
Mr. White himself. I'll see also The Wolf in Pulp Fiction. But this is the point of his career, like in the 90s, where it's like directors that appreciate old school and 70s cinema are using this guy as a character actor, as a cop, as a low-level mobster or gangster, and the man was made to do it. He's so good. Alum of the show. Isn't that him in National Treasure, Andrew? We could talk about him there.
It is indeed.
Looking sharp as ever. I mean, I love, who doesn't love Harvey Keitel? He performs in a way that's not naturalistic. It's over the top. It is clearly acting, but it is compelling. I love watching this man talk. His cadence is almost like as distinct as someone like Christopher Walken. It's not quite as memeable, but like he has a very specific cadence in all of his performances, whether he's a good guy or bad guy. He always makes it work. But he's captivating. He's a perfect person to build this movie around as the villain here. And I mean, it's Harvey Keitel. What else do you say about the man? Legend.
Yeah, I mean, his career speaks for itself. Obviously we talked about him back on National Treasure. I mean, the like I said, the career speaks for itself. Thelma and Louise. What was that submarine movie he was in? U-571, which is not a submarine. That's a boat. U-boat, yes. And just even like he's Satan in Little Nicky, which is a random thing that I just remember for some reason. Just a great character actor. Still out there doing his thing. 86 years old, which is way older than I thought he was for some reason. But which means that he was like 57 when they made this. 58.
Jeez.
But
when is Mean Streets? What year is that? Because he's with Scorsese before even De Niro.
Mean Streets is 73.
1973. Damn.
So that means in that movie he is 34, and
Already a grown ass man.
Yeah, he is more man than I will ever be in Mean Streets, and and he's also in The Last Temptation of Christ. I forget that he's in that. He plays Judas. He's one of the main characters. It's just a great career. What can you say? Gets into the Wes Anderson stuff, gets into the Quentin Tarantino stuff. He's in the Scorsese circle. Like, he's everywhere. How can you go wrong? He's kites. Yeah, I shouldn't say that. That sounds terrible. It sounds like he's a park.
He's Tell.
Child's event
He's
at
Tell.
the park. He's Tell. What are you gonna do? H-Tell. There we go.
Ray Liotta plays Figsy, Officer Figgis, and interesting turn for Ray Liotta. Beginning of the 90s, hits it big with Goodfellas, like a star-making performance. Oddly, his career, he has a career, there's nothing to sneeze at. It's very respectable. But he doesn't turn into the leading man that people might have thought after Goodfellas. But it's a very nice character actor level career. A lot of mob gangster stuff, criminal stuff, obviously, with what he becomes known for. But he showed up in a million places since then. Another alum of the show. We talked about him back on Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, which I think was one of, if not his final performances. R.I.P. Ray Liotta. But he is great here. And he's also playing, even though this is less than 10 years after Goodfellas, it seems like he's playing like an inversion of his usual persona, because he's gained a little bit of weight. He's a little bit washed up. His character is a coke addict who's trying to not necessarily go straight, but get out of the corruption game. And he actually gets kicked out of the circle of corrupt cops and tries to do one last corrupt thing. I don't know why I'm being so vague. Like, we can say spoilers, but he burns down his house for the insurance money, accidentally killing his girlfriend, which isn't revealed till later in the movie. But has a one final like turn to the good side, a little redemption arc here. But otherwise, yeah, like I said, a little heavier than you might expect. Definitely, guy seems to be on shaky ground with his addiction. But Ray Liotta, I love him. Anything he ever showed up in.
Yep. R.I.P. to Ray Liotta. Obviously, passed away a few years ago. It's variations on a theme, whatever you want to call it. I like what the character's doing here. He's the one that's kind of on the most outside of the corrupt cops circle. It seems to stem a lot from his old partner kind of getting presumably killed by the corrupt cops before he could testify against them. And he seemingly still holds a grudge against some of them for that. And then throughout the course of this film ends up kind of on the outs with them. And then that's one of Stallone's realizations later that, it was not a accident that burned down his house. It was a deliberate act of arson. He just wasn't expecting his girlfriend to be there when it happened. And it's a great performance. Yeah, I do love his Han Solo moment at the end. When he kind of realizes that, he can't let Freddy walk into this situation alone. And those dang morals had to kick up one last time for him. And eventually he ends up being a part of the whole process that takes down a good many of the dominoes in this situation. So it's a bit of a I like the performance a lot. I think it's a lot of layers. It's definitely, you can definitely pick up on the sense that like he's one of those guys that's like quote unquote corrupt, but he's like, but I'm still kind of one of the good guys. Like that's the kind of air that he projects. Whereas some of these guys, like, they know they're the bad guys and they don't care. Like he feels like he's one of those guys that like sort of knows he's like, yeah, I do some bad stuff and I do some shady stuff, but like, I'm still obviously trying to do the right thing. And like, it's, he rides that line very well until ultimately, like you said, it ends up costing him his girlfriend's life. And then eventually he still does decide that he needs to help Freddy. So it's Ray Liotta, man. It's great. Also, Goodfellas, hot take. Pretty good.
Pretty good movie? Pretty good movie? You think so?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Robert De Niro plays Lieutenant Mo Tilden. Robert De Niro, I don't know if there's very few actors, I think, that can be just as iconic as a good guy or a bad guy. This movie, he happens to be on the right side of the law, but just a few years prior in Heat, he was the ultimate bad guy. And he plays both equally well and very similar. There's very few differences to the performance. But yeah, he's great here. Rewatching the movie for the podcast, he's in the movie less than I remember from a screen time perspective. He has a very important role, but he drops out of the movie for pretty significant amounts of time. He knows what Harvey Keitel's up to. He pleads with Freddy to help him, and when he doesn't at first, he kind of disappears for a while. Freddy comes to him for help too little too late, and then finally it all comes together in the end. But I love his performance here. I love the haircut they give him. I've never seen De Niro with hair like that. It was fascinating to me. Very funny performance, and I mean, God, it's Robert De Niro. It's
I said,
so good.
MVP is his sandwich. That he offers the other half of to his partner.
Interesting point in his career, because he's obviously been an A-list actor, leading man for decades by this point, and even going into the 90s, things like Frankenstein, Casino, Heat, like he's top of the call sheet. But by the end of the 90s, things like Sleepers, here in Copland, Jackie Brown, very much an ensemble movie. He starts taking on a lot more supporting roles and ensemble pieces, and I don't know. It's like he's still excited by just being an actor at that point. And I'm not saying he loses that at some point. I'm not saying he does it. I don't know. There's a whole another phase of his career that comes sometime after Meet the Parents. He seems a little less excited to be on set. But at this point, he's...
I'll say, I just agree that, like, 98 also has Ronin, which I think is a little bit of an underrated action movie that he's in, directed by John Frankenheimer, and one of the last movies that he directed before he passed away. It's obviously, we talked about Frankenheimer back on Reindeer Games, but he's and then you get Analyze This, which is 99, which is a little bit of an ensemble. Obviously, it's him playing off Billy Crystal, but once you get Meet the Parents and you start getting, then it's just Meet the Fockers, and it's it's a bit of a turn there. And then he does get a lot of accusations these days of the kind of phoning it in a way. But then you still get stuff mixed in there, like, Killers of the Flower Moon, and even The Irishman, which, I'm not the biggest fan of The Irishman, but you can tell he's trying and he's invested in what's happening.
I mean, he's always going to show up for Scorsese.
Yeah, he is. And especially one that they're trying so hard been trying to make for so long. But De Niro, again, its career speaks for itself. Yeah, it's like he's out of it's so weird. It's like he's out of the 70s, but the rest of the movie is
even
not.
with that haircut,
that haircut and the suits all look like he's from 1977. But the movie is 97. But I do love his performance. Like the thing where like you said, it's like the case is shut down. Everybody go to lunch. And they're always like, well, I'm having lunch. He's like, go to lunch. The case is shut down. Everybody get out. Like he's so, but then he has that so like the case gets shut down, so he loses out on his chance to take down Donlin, and he's really upset about that. So when Freddy comes to see him, he's just kind of like, you had your chance and you blew it. Like, we had a moment and it's gone. And then he kind of storms out. But then the first thing he says is he's like, well, if he kicks something up and causes a bunch of problems, then maybe we're back. So he doesn't want to help him because he kind of needs
trying to
him to
piss
do it
him
himself
off.
first. Yeah, like he needs him to do it himself in order to really kind of, he's basically like, he needs Freddy to basically get them to make a mistake. And which is basically what happens. It is it's a good performance. It's 4, maybe 5 scenes. It's not a lot. But they're all really good, and it's good stuff.
Now, Ray Donlin, Harvey Keitel, the bad guy, his basically right-hand man in his circle of corrupt cops, is Officer Jack Rucker, played by Robert Patrick. And Andrew, you probably won't agree with me. He was unrecognizable to me in this movie, and I think it's just because he has a mustache.
Oh no, completely.
But
I'm not going to disagree with you on that one.
Okay,
like, actually,
thank you. I'm like, I don't see Robert. Like, he looks familiar. What I know him from, I don't see. And even after knowing it's him, I'm like, so that's just the T-1000 with a mustache? I don't see it. Who is this man?
Yeah, I'm doing a check real quick. Like, so Copland, I think it's the haircut too, because in as the T-1000, he's got like the kind of very coiffed hair. Whereas here he's got this kind of weird, like, very like almost 70s-esque look. And then it is and then it's the mustache. And it is a mustache and a half. Also he speaks, which probably has a little bit of an impact, but yeah.
I mean, I've heard him talk in a lot of other stuff too. But yeah, he has a very distinct look. This is he's one of those people, much like I've said about Mark Hamill, where like Mark Hamill in the original Star Wars movies, in the sequel series, looks like 2 different people. And I just happen to know they're both Mark Hamill, but I don't see that person aging into that person. I also feel like Robert Patrick has his T-1000 era career, which is like from Terminator 2 to like maybe the Marine. And then he has the next phase of his career, which is like Walk the Line to Peacemaker, where he just like him and Chris Cooper become one person. Like he just ages into Chris Cooper. And this becomes like, I don't see him now and see like an old T-1000. I see like I know it's Robert Patrick, but I don't know. His look has changed. But I mean he's great in this. I mean I'm starting to notice a pattern. Like a lot of these people are character actors, but they also have like a giant movie early in their career. Like Ray Liotta had Goodfellas. He had Terminator 2. You could even say Harvey Keitel had Mean Streets before they just kind of do all these character actor roles. Not that they're washed up or anything by any means, but like
I think that's probably a much more common thing than we probably realize. Like you get your kind of breakout performance, and like, the people that become like genuine movie stars, especially in an era like today, like you take somebody like Simu Liu, like, Shang-Chi was a pretty big hit, and that hasn't really translated to like any other serious sustained leading roles. Or you even go with something bigger, like take Chris Evans. Chris Evans is, I think, an even bigger example of this, of like, obviously everybody knows Chris Evans is Captain America, but what has he done since he stopped being Captain America?
But Captain America wasn't his first. I mean, he had 10 years of movies before that. You know what I mean?
But that's obviously what makes him a big deal, is Captain America.
Well, yeah.
But like, it's mostly just a comment that like the modern era of movies obviously makes this an even harder thing to granulize. Where like, I think now we just like, the era of the movie star is so far gone that like, it's kind of even crazier that to me that like, we're not even able to take the people that are popular now and sustain that into future like starring roles and things. But it's weird.
I do want to talk about Michael Rappaport as Officer Babbage. They call him Superboy throughout the movies because he's known for a heroic act on the job. Gets the nickname of Superboy in the press. before the events of this movie. I love Michael Rappaport, alum of the show, maybe even a Mark Strong Award winner for his work in Deep Blue Sea. I love him there. Who you gonna trust? You trust me because I'm trustworthy. Love this guy. Love the way he talks. I could listen to this guy talk all day long.
Don't look
he
up.
Always sounds
Don't
the
look
same.
up his
Always...
personal life.
Oh no. Let me slow the roll here. I love the man on screen. I know nothing about his personal life. I like him in this movie. And I like how I don't know, squirrely, is that the right word? Definitely like ready to jump out of his own skin from like the moment you see him. And ultimately doesn't get away with his crimes, ends up having to pay for his crimes, but kind of goes through hell on the way there. Really a pawn in the greater game that's going on here, but well cast role.
Oh, absolutely. I think he embodies the exact type of role, this performance, what this performance needs, which is somebody who, like, he had this big high profile moment where he saved a bunch of kids, and he's kind of been coasting off of that. It's what gets him the nickname Superboy. And then he makes a mistake. He shoots at a car, causes these guys to crash, and creates this whole problem. And it's you need somebody that's kind of Weasley. I guess maybe that's another good term. Somebody that's kind of Weasley, to like just a real, like, a rodent-esque quality to play a character like this, because it's a guy who's like got this hero story, but he's still not really a hero. He leans into all the corruption. He benefits from all of it as much as he can. And, when things even start to slightly go sideways, he just wants to bail and run away. So it is, eventually he gets taken to the right spot, but it's something else where he has to be forced there. But yeah, this is pretty on point casting.
I'll be honest, I read up a little bit on personal life. This was not what I was expecting to read about Michael Rappaport. And it ends with him announcing he will be running for mayor of New York in 2029.
Specifically because he
Why
hates
not?
Mom Donnie.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, I want to go do a few more. I want to do a few more just kind of like drive-by casting acknowledgments here, because these are our main players, but I think there's a few more small parts I want to acknowledge here. Annabella Sciorra plays Liz Randone, who, I'm not going to lie to you, the whole time I'm watching this movie, I just kept going. She looks a lot like Talia Shire. But
I see it.
But Noah Emmerich, kind of a kind of legendary character actor as well, plays Heflin's deputy sheriff, Janine Garofalo. Comes in
Noah
as,
Emmerich, I remember as the friend from The Truman Show. That is always the first thing I think of when I see him. Yeah,
alum of the show in that regard. No, we didn't talk Truman Show. We talked Ed TV.
Yeah,
but
common mistake.
But Janine Garofalo as Deputy Sheriff Cindy Betts. She obviously an alum from Mystery Men, possibly other things as well. But it's so odd to me that Janine Garofalo does so many bit parts like this in the 90s, because there's not an ounce of humor to these characters. But to me, it's so odd that, like, she's known for comedy, but yet there's so many bit parts she does in the 90s where there's nothing. They're just straight dramatic acting parts. Like, even she has a bit part in Dogma that's funnier than this, but still pretty straightforward. She's
been pretty open in recent interviews about, like, pursuing I don't say the word legitimate, but a serious career in Hollywood as a leading lady. Like, you can even see here, like, the woman was never, like, overweight, but she has clearly, like, lost weight in an attempt to gain more roles. And she was cast as Marla Singer in Fight Club, which was like the culmination of all this stuff. She gets replaced very close to production, and there's disputing reasons as far as why that happened. But she sometime in the early 2000s like gave up on that. She's like, you know what, I'm not gonna sell my soul to do this, and still does like stand up and small comedy parts, but is kind of just living her own life. And I mean, we have talked about her multiple times. We talked about
Yeah,
her on
so-
Mystery Men. I think maybe picked up a Mark Strong Award. Talked about her in Wet Hot American Summer. She's got a cameo in Half Baked. And I think I've managed to say every time, she's just like the epitome of cool alternative chick from the 90s. And still seems to be living that life to this day. So gotta love her for it.
Yep. John Spencer of West Wing fame plays Detective Leo Krasky, just another of the Circle. Edie Falco plays the bomb agent squad. And then my two favorite cameos in this movie. Method Man plays the rooftop perp that ultimately leads to John Berg, or Peter Berg's character, Joey Randone, another of his Circle, passing away. And then Debbie Harry, lead singer of the band Blondie, plays the bartender at the bar all the cops hang out at. Just such strange casting to show up in this place, but a needlessly stacked movie in a variety. And this is there's 15 other people on this cast list that you could go through, but this movie is stacked.
I was looking at steelbooks at Walmart earlier today, and they had a Tales from the Dark Side, the movie steelbook, which I don't think I've ever seen. I was checking it out, and it says on the back, starring Deborah Harry, and then it puts in parentheses Videodrome, which is very funny to me that, like, I get you'd want to list an acting credit in a movie, but, like, it's Debbie Harry. She's the lead singer of Blondie. Like, the actress from Videodrome is just a very funny way to identify
like
Deborah Harry. I've also never understood why sometimes Deborah Harry, sometimes Debbie Harry. I don't know if she uses one specifically for acting, but I've seen it both ways and seemingly no rhyme or reason. Otherwise, I don't know.
It's so weird. Like, I always love that too when, like, it's like it's like a musician and they try. It's Deborah Harry. It's like, it's Blondie. Parallel Lines is one of the best pop albums of all time. You friggin' weirdos. Like, come on. Like, it's ridiculous. But anyway, an insane cast full of, and the thing I will say about this cast too, nobody is phoning it in. Everybody is at the top of their game. Yeah. Everybody is giving it everything they got, and the movie is all the better for it.
Andrew, let's talk some scenes of this movie, and let's just, let's just start with the best scene of the film, or at least our personal favorite. So, Andrew, kick us off here. When is this movie firing on all cylinders? What is the best scene in Copland?
This whole movie is my favorite scene, but it's got to be, to me, it's the finale. It's we've talked around it a lot, but just like the way this is all handled, which is basically like Freddy just decides that he has to do this himself. He gets Superboy after he goes to his aunt and is basically like, and the aunt is skeptical. She's like, "You're part of the group. I can't trust you." And he's like, "I'm literally the only hope he has, because anybody else is going to shoot him on sight." Now, I will say, Stallone just walking out the front door with him and then immediately getting mugged by the cops. I'm like, you probably could have seen that coming just a little bit, buddy. But it's I
see it as like Freddy is still trying desperately to see the best in everybody. He's still like holding on to hope that people are like gonna make the right choice. Like, he has a hard time seeing these guys as true villains. And he's like, because like, why would he give a heads up, tell him exactly when he's leaving? He's still like, very naively, I agree with you. He could have been better about it. But like, I think that's why he does it like that.
So it's a really, really good scene, though, because what ends up happening is Robert Patrick like shoots a gun right next to his good ear, which basically makes him deaf. But he doesn't let it stop him. So he's got blood coming down his ear, and he grabs his shotgun and his pistol, and he just trudges to basically Ray's house because he knows that's where they're at. And he runs into all the different people that are in the circle. He ends up taking out a whole bunch of them. And when it looks like he's finally dead to rights, that's when Ray Liotta's dang morals and empathy kick in, and he shows up to make the save. And then this ultimately, like I mentioned, the scene already leads to him taking down Ray. And, Ray is saying something to him. We have no idea what. Just for Freddy to go, "I can't hear you, Ray." And it's the most it's climatic in the most anticlimactic way possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, this is so against the type of what this type of scene normally is, because this one it's rough, it's dirty. He's not going in there with confidence, anything resembling confidence. He's going in there almost it I might be reading into it too deep, but it's almost a suicide mission, essentially. Like, this is basically Freddy's last play. He's got no other options. And so his only option is to go there and start taking these guys out and hope that by bringing Babbage, Superboy, to IA, that something comes from it. Because if Freddy dies while this happens, then nothing happens. They'll throw his body into the river. No one's going to care. And 2 people will care, but it's so well done. And Stallone, again, is just he acts his way through this perfectly. It is just a fantastic sequence of events that leads to he wins in such as he can against the impossible odds. And like I said, this is the kind of thing where it's a win, but at what cost? Essentially, like, he's essentially unraveled this whole thing that he's had going. He's, as the ending narration says, there's people on both sides of the river that wish he never did any of this, because, when you've got a system that a bunch of people benefit from and you upset that system, the people that benefited from it tend to get upset. And it's a tale as old as time. But it's just so well done, and I love the way it all unfolds. And it's in no small part to Stallone's performance. I do like that they made a brief moment earlier in the movie to show that despite everything, Stallone is still a pretty good shot. I like that that's a nice little subtle way of doing that, because it's just so well done. It's just a really good, it's a perfect kind of way a movie like this should end. It's not in a blaze of glory. It's not, guns a-blazing. It's limping to the finish in every single sense of the term. In this case, literally, like, as he is walking with Babbage to IA, he is basically, like, slowly bleeding out and dying on the way to taking him to IA and making sure he's protected. Like, but like, not in like I'm limping to the finish because I've survived and I'm tough and I'm badass. I'm limping to the finish because I will probably die soon. And even if I die, it's still largely not going to mean anything, but doing this will mean something. And that's pretty cool.
I gotta agree with you. I'm also gonna go with the finale as my favorite scene. I mean, the movie is full of great scenes and great acting moments, and I love it. But the way it all comes together is just so satisfying that I've got to say this is the best scene in the movie. Like you said, it starts with Robert Patrick shooting a gun right next to his good ear, and we hear the effect. We, the audience, as soon as he fires that shot in his ear, there's a loud ringing, like music drops out, and you, the audience, hear nothing but this loud ringing. And this is, one of my notes says, this is Stallone's big acting moment. It's the one time he gets to go really big. He's on his knees in the street, holding his ears and screaming, ah, like real, like dramatic, like. It's like the one time he even like talks above normal speaking voice. Really sell the pain of that being shot out, and even his blood dripping out of his ear, like, it's obviously bad. This is one of the few times I've ever seen how loud a gun is, like, acknowledged in a movie.
Right.
Normally it's totally ignored, but yeah, it is dangerous. They wear protective equipment in shooting ranges for a reason. And the whole scene plays out with that ringing. Like, at first the ringing is very loud. It silences to like a dole, but there's not dramatic music playing. There's not badass action music playing. It's all muted sounds,
like, it's
with that ringing. And he walks up the driveway. There's the shootout. No one jumps over a hood. No one has sudden athletic prowess that they didn't have before. It's very grimy, very dirty. And like he said, he goes inside, he shoots Ray in the gut, he falls to the ground. And I love this scene so much because, again, we're from Stallone's perspective. We have the ringing. We can't hear anything. Ray is saying something to Freddy. And like you said, he has the line, "I can't hear you, Ray." which is so beautiful because obviously physically he cannot hear him. Hey, don't waste your breath. I can't hear you. I'm deaf. But Freddy has been under Ray's thumb for years at this point. Ray got him the job as sheriff. Ray made sure that Freddy would always look the other way. Ray is always dangling a carrot that maybe he can get him a job in the NYPD. Maybe he can get him a promotion. He has been manipulating him for his entire adult life. And now Freddy has woken up. He's out from under his thumb. He can't hear Ray anymore. That is some beautiful screenwriting. That is some beautiful dialogue. I love that it's not like it functions as a quip. It has meaning behind it, but it also has a very literal meaning where you just can't hear what he's saying. And that's just that's just so satisfying. It's a perfectly written line, great delivery. And just the balls for like the climax to like your cops and criminals movie to be set to the sound of a annoyingly piercing, ringing tone and not have like badass action scenes, but it's still compelling and still satisfying. Incredible that this is his second movie. Like it's insane how much control he has and how he has the buy-in of all these legendary actors to go through with it. Yeah, comes together beautifully. I'm agreeing with you. Best scene in the movie. I do love whenever he's delivering Superboy, and he is like you said, he's not heroically limping. Like he's on the verge of death, and he's like scared. Like he's deaf,
Right?
And they're trying to take Superboy, and he's clutching onto him because he doesn't understand. You see in his eyes, he doesn't understand. Yeah. And DeNiro's got to like talk him down and put his hand on him. Like, it's okay. It's okay.
Hey,
we got him.
It's okay.
We did it.
We got it. We did it. You did it.
Yeah, it's great. Beautiful.
And even like De Niro, when De Niro comes outside, like it's like an Independence Day moment almost, where he's just like, the son of a bitch did it. Like he's like it's just
he just wanted him to raise the stink, and he just like went in and solved it.
He literally just did he did the whole thing. And it is just so good. It is the perfect way for a movie like this to end. It is just so good, and it is how this movie. Because like a classic action finale for this movie like doesn't work. Like it would completely be like antithetical to the entire thing. Like it'd
be so suddenly, unearned for him to be Rambo suddenly at the end.
Yeah, it would feel completely unearned. So for everybody involved to kind of have the guts, the wherewithal, the whatever to be like, you know what, this is how this movie needs to end. The movie is. Did you ever see Uncut Gems?
Yes, very stressful.
Very stressful, but. I'm going to spoil Uncut Gems for you guys if you haven't seen it. That movie ends with Adam Sandler getting shot in the head. It's the only way that movie can end.
Yes.
It is the only way it can end. Any other ending to that movie undoes everything before it. Everything. Like, if Adam Sandler lives at the end of that movie and gets away with everything, all you have to do is add 90s alt rock to the soundtrack, and it's every Adam Sandler movie ever. Like, if he if he survives at the end, then it's a movie where Adam Sandler is a pathetically useless husband that somehow needlessly attractive women are all attracted to and want to be with. And at the end of the movie, he makes a bunch of money and gets to run away with his hot young girlfriend. It's every Adam Sandler movie ever, and learns nothing. Exactly. Yeah. He has to die at the end of Uncut Gems. Otherwise, that movie is pointless.
Hang on, like, Andrew. Would every Adam Sandler movie be 40% better if he dies in the last scene? If Billy Madison ends with him just dying. Yeah.
The guy just Steve Buscemi, it still kills
shoots him instead. Yeah.
Just like, hey, it was nice that you called me, but it doesn't undo everything that you did.
You still have to pay for being a stud.
I mean, I will say this for Uncut Gems specifically. The movie builds to that moment, and like it's clearly with the movie as stressful and as tension as that, where he's spending the whole movie like just narrowly dodging things. It has to end that way. But obviously something like Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore or whatever doesn't need it doesn't. It's the way those stories are told don't benefit from him dying at the end. But like Now, there were people that were like, that ending, I just don't know. And I'm like, it has to end that way. If it doesn't end that way, the entire movie is pointless. And that is the ending of Copland. I've always said that Uncut Gems is the Copland of Adam Sandler movies. But this ending is the same. Like, if he just appears, like, the one little nugget they give him is that he's pretty accurate with a gun. That's the one thing they give him. And there's even a moment when they show that where I'm kind of like, you better not like turn him suddenly into like some crazy sharpshooter. The dude's shotgun jams on him almost immediately after he arrives on the scene too. Like, he immediately has to think fast. He grazes the one guy with the shotgun, then immediately has to change his approach. And this is all while he's disoriented. So even being a good shot when you're super disoriented and can't hear anything, like, it's by the skin of his teeth, and not in like a fake action movie skin of his teeth kind of way, but in an actual, at any moment, this scene could go wrong. If this scene ended with Stallone getting shot instead, it's not necessarily out of character for the movie either. I'm glad it doesn't end that way. It's way more satisfying that he actually succeeds. But the way this movie is told and as it unfolds, it wouldn't be necessarily out of the question if he doesn't succeed. If the odds are too much for him to overcome by himself. That's why Ray Liotta comes back. But like, it's if you change it to be just a classic, he just runs in and mows everybody down and then strolls out with Superboy, like, that just doesn't work. It's not that movie. So yes, I agree completely.
Moving back just a little bit in the timeline here, it's clear, like you said, this is basically a suicide mission, trying to bring Superboy in or trying to rescue him from Ray's house. And going into this, like, he has Superboy in custody. It's clear that he's going to need some help, but no one else is willing to step up. You mentioned Noah Emmerich. He's plays his deputy sheriff, Bill, and he's a genuinely like good guy. He's been helpful throughout the movie, but you see him talking to his wife. He's like, well, what am I supposed to do? I can't let him do this on his own. And Freddy just tells him, go home, go be with your wife. And he's guilty. He feels guilty about it, but he's like, it's too dangerous. I can't, my wife's pregnant. He's not going to risk his life to try to, he knows what's going on with the corruption. He's not going to risk his life to bring it down. Janine Garofalo's character is very interesting because at the beginning of the movie, she's just transferred in from presumably a bigger city to this small town. And she sees very early on that, like, the law doesn't mean much here.
Right.
Cops get, the NYPD cops run this town, not us.
The other way
she
around,
faces a ton of misogyny, blatant misogyny from the cops. And she is clearly frustrated with the status quo. But whenever Stallone's character is finally stepping up and investigating, she's like, this is too little too late. I'm not getting involved with this. I'm transferring back. And part of me watching it is like, well, she seems like she wants to do the right thing. Is she going to show up at the end, even though she said she was transferring back? But no, she's out of the movie. Once she said she's out, she's out. The only person that's willing to step up and help him is Figsy, Ray Liotta, who is obviously a character full of guilt, but as someone who has felt the wrath of the corruption. Like, he lost his partner because of this. His girlfriend was his fault, but he still experienced the pain and loss, and he's trying to get away, but like, he knows how bad this guy is. And it's very interesting that the only two people that are willing to stand up are the two that were most abused by Ray. It's almost like that's what it takes to have the courage to stand up against him. Because if you are...
Because typically speaking, Ray kills anyone that stands up against him too hard. Like, anybody who's actually tried to stop him seriously or has potentially stood in the way of messing with their gig, he has gotten rid of. And so Figsy is scared for that reason, in the sense that he's like, oh, if I push this too much harder, like, I'm already on the outs. I got to get out of here. Otherwise, I'm done. And Ray and Freddy is just kind of like, Ray has never seen Freddy as a threat and still doesn't to this point, I don't think. Like, Freddy's a novelty to Ray at this point. Like, he's a toy. He's a plaything. Oh, you got your fancy sheriff job, and that means you get to do this, and you get to do this, and you're all, look at you. Good for you. Pats him on the head. And so they're the only ones that will stand against him because anybody else that has isn't alive to talk about it. And so it is a suicide mission in a lot of ways. And it's just so good, man. It's just so good.
All right, now I want to go all the way back to the other side of the movie, the beginning of the movie, or at least the sort of inciting incident for the event of this movie, which would be Superboy and his incident on the bridge. We see he's been out drinking. He was hanging out with other cops. He's driving drunk. He gets sideswiped by some young motorists. And it's funny because he flashes his badge and tries to drive him down. And the guy in the passenger seat holds up what he assumes is like a gun. And I'm like watching the movie and I'm like, that's a weird looking gun. Like I didn't even,
Yeah.
because you kind of just see the barrel. It's revealed later it's not even a gun. It's just the club, basically.
Like a club, yeah.
Steering wheel log, yeah.
I love that we've now talked about 2 movies specifically that either have or reference a club.
Yeah.
And it's just such a specific snapshot of in time. Like the fact that Robin Hood Men in Tights makes a club joke, like to lock up a horse. And then like obviously here, just the notion that like this drunk police officer mistook a club for an actual gun. Just folks, there was a time that steering wheel locks were a thing.
Well, that's enough for him to justify pulling out his weapon and taking shots out of him. And the car comes to a screeching halt. He crashes into it, and the 2 people in the car are now dead, and they never had a weapon. So he's in a bit of trouble. The other cops show up, and Harvey Keitel's Ray Donovan. That's a different Ray.
Much different.
Ray Donlin. You got to give it to me. It's pretty close, though. And Robert Patrick, his right-hand man, Jack Rucker. He very obviously plants a weapon in the car. Like, the car's already been searched by the beat cops. Paramedics are already on the scene. People have been inside this car, but he takes 1 second look and all of a sudden finds a friggin' like mini machine gun under the seat. And no one on the bridge is buying it, especially the paramedics who outright just call him out. And there's very obvious race tensions at play here. The 2 men that were killed are black. The paramedic that's calling him out is a black man. He sees what's going on with this white police officer that has a Robert Patrick mustache. He knows what's up. They get into a scuffle, and during all this, Superboy jumps off the bridge, supposedly. At least that's what Harvey Keitel wants everybody to believe. And Andrew, I love nothing more than when really good actors portray a character that's a bad actor. Because his line delivery on, oh my god, he jumped. He just jumped. It's just so unconvincing.
Like, yeah, it's literally one step from just like, oh my god, this man has jumped off the bridge.
I am distraught.
Can you believe this man has jumped off the bridge, folks? Can you believe this?
I like how messy this is, though. I like that.
Yeah,
they are formulating this plan on the fly. People are catching the BS right away. And it just continues to go wrong as the movie progresses. But like, it's not like a well-oiled machine. They are just sort of this brazen that they can get away with faking someone's death so he can avoid facing
consequences
to his own actions. Which I still don't know what the end game is. Like, I guess he leaves the city,
and I guess that's kind of the problem in general, is that like, and it becomes the problem because essentially the whole point of this is that they can smuggle Superboy away, and they do, in as much as they get him off the bridge, they get him into Garrison. Stallone sees him but doesn't quite know what he's seeing. And eventually they kind of are like, hey man, like if they don't find a body in that river, people are going to start asking questions and we're going to have to come up with something. So the implication seems to be that like they were always going to kill him. But I guess like Superboy doesn't know that. And I guess his aunt doesn't know that. Like Superboy has no idea that like he still has to die eventually. So it does make the whole plan seem really like not very well thought through, which I guess at the end of the day is exactly what it is. Like this is them coming up with a plan on the fly, and lo and behold, like it turns out that when you're thinking of stuff on the fly, you're not thinking about the long term, you're not thinking about the issues with the plan, you're just trying to get to the next step, and eventually they get to the point where there is no next step. Basically, they're like the only step is that like he needs to like his body needs to get found, and it's like, okay, so eventually that's when the cops are like, all right, we still got to kill him. So it's very poorly thought out, but at the end of the day, I think that's the point. It's that, you know, these guys have presumed essentially that they're untouchable for so long that they think they can get away with everything. They think they'll have the next step. They think they'll have they always think they're on the front edge of it, but as the movie kind of collapses around them, you realize that they don't. They really don't have any idea what they're doing. And it adds something to it for me because it shows that like the conspiracy is far reaching, but in a way it's still not untouchable.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's always a breaking point with everything. You know, when you have a group of people who feel like they have an iron hold grasp on things, there's still cracks in it and they eventually start to form. And then the people start to wake up and realize that the last 10 years are all a mistake. What?
That's what happens in this film that we're discussing, Andrew.
Yeah.
Right?
But I do love that opening scene. I think it, or at least the kind of the George Washington Bridge sequence. Michael Rappaport, you know, we talked about this in casting. He's such a good pick for the type of character. Like in this whole scene, like he's on the bridge and he is just like, oh man, they're gonna take my bat, they're gonna take my shield, they're gonna take my job, they're gonna take my, like he's so down the rabbit hole of how he's gonna lose everything and how it's all awful and it's all terrible and everything's gone. And he's correct, by the way. In that moment, he's correct about everything. But eventually, Harvey Keitel and his group decide that they're going to help him out on the fly. He's Superboy. Nothing can happen to Superboy. So, but yeah, it's like you, the audience, know immediately that he's not jumped off this bridge. You know he hasn't done it, and everybody around it is like, "There's no way he jumped off that bridge." Like, so it's great in that it establishes the pull these guys think they have, while combining it with the fact that they almost immediately are not as untouchable as they think they are, because this super messy plan to get rid of Superboy it's doomed from the start essentially, and the movie just unravels further and further as it goes. So,
you know, I just put together to jump forward when they do realize, okay, we just have to kill Superboy because IA is not going to leave us alone. They need a body. Ray's talking to him in the backyard by the above ground pool, and then him and his other guys hold his head underwater. I guess because he has to die of drowning. Like, they can't just shoot him because that ruins the whole plan. So they need, like, the coroner to confirm he died by drowning, and then they can dump his body in the river. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, like
that is clicked for me.
And it's also the reason they never actually shoot at him, really.
Right.
It's the reason that even after they capture him at the end of the movie, they still just don't kill him.
Yeah.
They still just don't shoot him. They still don't kill him because they very specifically have to make it appear that he died the way they suggested he did. Now, the problem is that eventually, you know, the bigger problem is you're going to drown him, and then you have to basically, like, you have to make sure they don't find him too soon.
Yeah, let the body decompose a little bit so they can't determine exactly when he died.
Well, and also, like, I know liver temperatures and stuff like that is a thing. And so it's like, you really got to, you got to kill him, and then you got to sit him on ice for a couple of days to at least do that. But, and yeah, it's interesting because it's like, but it just shows again how haphazard it all is. That, like, in that moment, they're like, oh, we have to, we got to make it look like this. But then, like, all the problems that come with that. So I do like that, like, for as far-reaching and untouchable as they seem, the movie very clearly makes it obvious that these guys are not really that untouchable. That there are cracks all over the place, and that they're almost succeeding in spite of themselves more than because of themselves.
They're dependent
like,
on someone like Freddy not taking a stand.
Right.
Like,
they're dependent on the system at large failing. And, because, the age-old saying is that a system only functions as a system if the people within it treat it as one. Like, so a set of rules is only a set of rules if everyone agrees it's a set of rules. And so if no one is actually enforcing anything, then you don't actually have a set of rules.
And we're still talking about Copland, right?
Absolutely still talking about Copland. Definitely not talking about anything else. Definitely not involving corrupt law enforcement officials, that's for sure. But it's... And that's basically the heart of this, is that, for these guys to basically be getting away with stuff forever. And even if the cracks are showing, even if the system's not processing, even if their, actions and plans aren't working very well, the system is still refusing to hold them accountable, despite the fact that there's clearly that. Like, Robert De Niro's whole meltdown of them getting their case shut down is pressure from the mayor's office coming from the police union, because the police union doesn't want their guys getting investigated because they think it makes them look bad. Again, a system that makes no sense. It's one of those things where it's like, cool, if there is corruption within your system and you would rather hide the corruption than get rid of the corruption, you have eroded the faith in the system, and you are now making it impossible for that system to recover. Also, still definitely just talking about Copland. Yeah. And so, but I definitely do like that about these guys, because, like, they carry themselves like they're untouchable, but they're clearly not. Like, they literally had the guy's partner killed in prison to stop him from talking. And that's part of why they go after Superboy eventually, is they're afraid if he gets taken in, he will talk.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we need a body and we need him to not talk. And that's ultimately why they do that. Now, why you're going to drown him in a chlorine pool and then throw him into a river, I don't know. Good luck with that, I guess. Again, it's not well thought out. You got to check the pH levels. You got to, it's a whole problem.
I like the little glimpses we get of what Freddy kind of does on a day-to-day basis as sheriff of this small town, because he's not holding the cops accountable for anything. Early on, we see a scene of when they're bringing Superboy into Garrison of, I'm just going to call them the actors' names, Harvey Keitel and Robert Patrick just speeding like 80 down the road. And Janine Garofalo, who's like clearly still training, she shows it to him. She's like, okay, can I pull this one over? And he's like, yeah, that's pretty extreme. So they pull him over, and Janine Garofalo is just doing her thing. She's talking to him, asks for the license. And to say they don't take her seriously is an understatement. Like, they disrespect her as a police officer, like, and as a woman. They're calling her like honey and cupcake, and just go get Freddy. He'll tell you how things work around here. We got places to be. Just complete disregard. And so what does that leave Freddy to do? I love the little scene we see of him in like downtown Garrison, and there's some kids like ganging up on a kid in an alley and beating him up whenever Robert De Niro comes to talk to him. He's like, oh, excuse me for a minute. And he goes to the kids, and he's like, all right, break it up. Everyone go to the park. Go on, Fred, kick your ass. And I love that, like, that's his job. He breaks up little high school scuffles.
Kid fights, yeah.
He just walks around and makes sure things are relatively orderly. It's, just very status quo. Don't ruffle any feathers.
Yeah, he's the king of not rocking the boat. Like, it's... And there's a whole combination of things that play into that, and it's the point with Freddy. He's basically been honeypotted his entire life by these guys. He's been told, you're doing us all a favor. You can't be on the NYPD, but we're going to make you sheriff here, because here, you get to be here. But also, being sheriff here is a sweet gig because it's a town of cops, man. You don't got to police the cops in a town of cops. Like, your job is easy. You get to deal with easy stuff. But then it builds into the fact that he's hopelessly pathetic, for lack of a better way to put it.
There's a few moments where he does try to not necessarily stand up to Ray, but to do something, like before he finally gets a backbone at the end of the movie. Like the day after Superboy is quote unquote killed, Ray has this giant party at his house, and Freddy comes over. He's like, "Hey, come on, how do you think this looks?" And Ray just puts his hand on her shoulder. He says, "Go home, Freddy, and don't think so much. Just don't even question it. Like,
don't even bother.
What are you doing here?"
Yeah, and like those moments are just like, it's just, and it's sad because like in that moment, Freddy is completely correct. Like he's completely right that like, yeah, throwing a party after your nephew died the previous day looks kind of weird, man. And his response again, just because they all think they're untouchable, is, "Don't you worry about blank. You let me worry about blank." And there's a couple of moments peppered in the movie where like he tries, such as it is, and he just backs down immediately. He's a house of cards. There's a couple of moments later, like when things start going sideways, that he kind of tries to talk to Ray, and there's just a whole lot of like back and forth. And like when Ray Liotta's character falls out, like Ray is just like, "Freddy, get him out of here." Like he's just like, do my errand, like be my errand boy, basically. You know, stop letting this guy mess up our good thing. And and then like you just throw on top of it, like the other thing that, you know, we mentioned it is that like guys like Ray, they'll tease Freddy with stuff. Like they have that guy that's like the head of the police union or the head of the PDA or whatever, and like he's like, "Oh, we're always looking for guys like you." And it's like, it's that hope that like maybe there's another job waiting for me. So as long as I stay in good with these guys and I don't rock the boat, maybe they'll get me that job in the city. Maybe I'll get to go back to New York. Maybe I'll get to, you know, I won't be NYPD, but I'll be like, you know, it's first off really mean. Like just I'm starting to think these guys don't even like Freddy. It's almost like they're using him. This is terrible. But and even Liz, like Liz is married to a cop, the one played by Peter Berg, and he ends up dying because his character kind of does the same thing. He's Superboy's partner. He finds out what's kind of happened to Superboy and like what they're kind of trying to do. And so when Ray sees a moment that something bad can happen to this guy, he just chooses not to save him. And delays it and lets the guy fall to his death. And then even in the aftermath of that, Liz, his wife and Freddy's long lost love, still tells Freddy that it's basically pointless to go after these guys. That like, you know, like, what are you going to do? Like, what do you think is going on here? Like, not everything is a conspiracy. And they're right. Not everything is a conspiracy. But this one is. It's that moment of like, you're generally right, except this time it is a conspiracy. So it's the way Freddy is played in this movie. Like I said, I was actually like telling my friend just the other night, I was like, "Have you seen Copland?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "You should."
That's a great way to start any conversation.
Yeah.
Have you
and
seen
he
Copland?
was like, "What is it?" I was like, "Have you seen Copland? Have you seen this? You heard about this?" But
all you gotta do is run down the cast, and people will be like, "How have I not seen this? How have I not heard about this?"
That's literally what I
incredible.
did. I was like, "It's Stallone, and it's Harvey Keitel, and it's Michael Rappaport," and it's like started listing it through, and they were like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." But this is just such a good performance, and it's like I said, it's a bummer that it is a bummer 1000% that Stallone has not done anything. I don't know that he'd done anything like this before, and I don't think he's done anything like it since.
What's really impressive to me is like on top of like being like pathetic and a pushover and gaining the weight, and he's drunk often. He, you know, a big part of his character is that he's deaf in one ear, and he plays that so convincingly. My dad was not deaf in one ear, but had significant hearing loss from an episode of Bell's palsy, and it took us a long time to convince him to get hearing aids. And let me tell you, the years between then, like, I recognized a lot of things my dad did, what Stallone is doing here, where you kind of don't hear exactly what someone says, but nod like you did, or turn your head so that the correct ear is facing, and like you don't want to just say I didn't hear you, so you kind of like fake it. And Stallone's doing that like this entire movie, and it's so convincing and subtle, and words that you don't typically describe Stallone performances.
Right.
It's incredible what Mangold got out of him for this performance.
Right, absolutely, because like you said, that's a dedication to the craft that like, and part of it is just that he simply doesn't really make movies like this. Like he just doesn't really do that. Like even when he's doing stuff that's like even something that's a little bit more dramatic, like a Creed, or even now with Tulsa King, like you're getting these kind of more dramatic performances, but they're still not to this level, because like in Creed, as much as I like the Creed movies for the most part, he's still playing Rocky Balboa. Like he's still Rocky Balboa. Like there's still an inherent respect, and like I don't know that honor is the right word, but that character carries a lot of those things that like are just almost inherent because he's Rocky Balboa. And when you look at something like obviously Tulsa King, he's still kind of playing a mob boss. So there's still this like air of don't mess with me. Like people think they can mess with me, but they really can't. Like the vulnerability of this performance, I think, is the thing that sets it apart from almost anything else, to the point that I think the only thing you really could compare it to is the first Rocky, because that is a relatively vulnerable performance in the sense that like in that like, and it's one of those things that's kind of tough because like we didn't like my dad remembers film before a character like Rocky Balboa exists. And like you watch that become an icon in real time, basically. And it's a thing that like we didn't really get to experience, not to that level at least. Like because by the time we were all cognizantly watching movies, like all of the Rocky movies outside, Rocky Balboa and the Creed movies, all five, the 5 Rocky movies are already out. He's already a thing. It's like Star Wars. Like Star Wars was just a thing by the time we were kids and we were digesting media. But there was a time where it was this brand new thing. So for Rocky, just being Stallone's first kind of big foray into acting, into writing, into everything, like there is no ego with Rocky. There really isn't. But the minute Rocky's a hit, and like the minute you go back for Rocky 2, now it's different. Now it's something else. And now it's a thing. And that's kind of
like Rocky's groundbreaking because he loses. Spoilers for Rocky. And then he's like, hey, number 2, what if he wins? Hey, number 3, what if he wins? Hey, number 4, what if he wins? Hey, number 5, what if he wins? Number 6, this time Rocky's gonna win.
It's like I love all the Rocky movies are so funny because like, I love them, but like Rocky is like the whole reason that Rocky succeeds is because they build successfully that going the distance with Apollo is the victory, not winning the fight, because no one has done that before. It's one of those things where like I love it when sports movies do that, where they build in that the victory is not quote winning, and the movie convinces you of that. Because it's easy for a movie to be like, oh, it's not about winning, but you don't buy it because it's still sort of about winning.
Yeah.
But it's for the movie to like, actually, there's a football movie I really like called Necessary Roughness. I don't know if you're familiar.
Only for me bringing it up. It's probably number 2 after Copland for the amount of times you brought that up on the podcast.
But like, it's, if you've seen The Replacements, you've seen Necessary Roughness, because it's every underdog football movie is the same plot, except in Replacements, they make the playoffs. But in Necessary Roughness, one of the things I like about that movie is that they're horrible and they lose almost every game of the season. Like their second to last game, they tie. And one of my favorite lines in the movie is the announcer is like, "Armadillos tie. What an amazing upset." But the final game, they're like 11-0-1 at this. They're 0-11-1 at this point or whatever. And they are playing the defending state champions. This team that earlier in the season absolutely mauled them, like beat them into a pulp. So that final game they win, but they don't win the championship. They don't win the season. But it's just that at that one moment, at that one time, they were the best team in the state, and they beat the best team in the state. but there's no trophy, there's no parade, there's no anything. The movie successfully builds up that in that moment, it's just about being on their level for that, hour of football. And it's an underrated thing because it's tough too, because like in a movie like that, you're like, oh, well, they've lost every game so far. So how are you going to invest me in this last one? Like, it doesn't mean anything for the season, but if you make it the rival, you make it mean, it can be done. And it's a very tough thing to do. But yeah, I'm off the rails at this point. I don't know what my point. I think my point was simply that there's no ego on Stallone and Rocky, which is why I think it's really the only real comparable performance to something like this, because it's one of the only other performances I think I can think of where there's just like Stallone feels like he's just completely putting himself out there in a way that just like I said, I don't think he's done otherwise, which is why these are his two best performances. But it is the subtleties, the little things he does, all of it. It's just so good. Like, it's, I don't know. I don't know why you don't do it more. I mean, it takes a lot of work. It's obviously tough. And if, you don't even have to be in shape for it. Like, it's the dream role. But he's just so good in this. And the whole cast just has this like really, really good chemistry. And all the dirty cops like feel like they're like a brotherhood. Like they're all, like the kind of community that they build, it feels real. All of that works. And so it's a tremendous cast up and down. We've talked about that endlessly, but everybody plays off of each other so well. And even like Stallone with his like deputy played by Noah Emmerich, like even that like still comes off like that feels genuine and it feels real. And like Noah, you can tell like is on Stallone's side in the sense
he
that
wants to be there for him.
He wants to be on his side and he wants to support him, but he's also just like, yeah, this is out of my depth at this point. Like part of the reason, it's a tacit admission that part of the reason he also has this job is because there's no risk, basically. And the minute there is risk, he's like, well, I want to help you with this, but I don't know that I can. And Stallone just kind of is like, don't, I'll figure it out. And in that moment, Stallone is basically almost further cementing that like, I'm probably not going to get out of this. So that's even more of a reason for you not to be involved here. Like, it's even more of a reason for you to stay away from what's about to happen because, you should not survive a situation like this. Man, what a great movie.
I love the moment between Ray Liotta and Stallone because Ray Liotta, after his house burns down, he's staying at Freddy's place. He's staying at the police station first, then Freddy says he can crash on his couch. And so they have some bonding moments, and Stallone kind of sees up close his cocaine addiction and starts investigating what actually happened to his house. But basically, he ends up telling Figsy, Ray Liotta, that he's gonna, stand up to Ray, and Ray Liotta has this great line. He tells him, "Being right is not a bulletproof vest, Freddy."
Yep,
that's before Ray
I love
Liotta,
that line. I love it so much.
Good. Like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's corrupt. Yeah, he should pay, but like, that's not gonna protect you. It's still a suicide mission. Like, it's being righteous is overrated. And obviously that eats at Ray Liotta because he drives off, and before he leaves the city, he U-turns, comes back. But what a line! What a delivery!
That's a one-way lane, Liotta. I don't know what you think you're doing, just stopping in the middle of it.
I had the exact same thought because he's on a highway and he doesn't exit. He just stops on the highway.
Stops on the highway. It's like
you're not going to cross that median.
It's like, all right, what are we doing?
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, Andrew.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug. I love that. I love that whole the chemistry between Liotta and Stallone, just in general, like, is just really, really good. But that scene at the burnt down house, where like Stallone's kind of put it all together because he sees the like burnt plastic on Liotta's duffel bag, and it clicks for him that he's like, oh, you did this. Because to that point in the movie, you're kind of led to believe that this is retribution. Yeah. That like the cops are making it clear to Liotta that like, oh, we own you, basically. Like, you think you can mess with us, we will come for you. And it turns out that he was just trying to get out and give himself a check to do that. So it's it's quite the twist. And obviously the girlfriend wasn't supposed to be there, but doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Talk about the club dating this movie. You know what else dates it? Geraldo. Geraldo Rivera has a talking head about the events that's going on. So I guess he filmed it for the movie because he's commenting on the events of this movie. And just seeing that guy's face really took me back. Isn't he like a disgraced journalist at this point? Didn't he like give away some intel on air that got people in danger or something? I feel like he had
he's had a couple of flubs in his career. I mean, he works for like he was on Fox for a long time, and he had his own like tabloid talk show. Like, so I don't know that he's ever been like respected necessarily. Like, he's always kind of been on the outside, but like he's always kind of been a little obviously he's been super sensationalist for most of his career. He's been super everything, but the one that he kind of really kind of ran into trouble with was Capone's Vault. I don't know if you remember this. It was the 1986. It was a TV special called The Mystery of Al Capone's Vaults. And the whole big thing was they found a walled off underground room in the Lexington Hotel in Chicago, once owned by Al Capone. And the whole thing was like this build up to like, what's in this vault? What's in this vault? What's in this vault? And then the vault was empty. Like, they didn't open it beforehand to see what was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did this, like 30 million people, 10% of the country watched this special to see that it was in Capone's vault. It was empty. Like, and it was like, wow. So after that, he was pretty much doomed to tabloid television, where I'm sure he put a great number of people in danger through his reckless actions. So, yeah.
Well, he had enough cachet in '97 to make it into Copland, severely dating this movie.
Yeah, I was watching My Name is Earl. I'm sure you're familiar. And he shows up. There's like this 2-part episode where like he shows up as like the host of like some program to like they're investigating the mystery of the original owner of the Crab Shack, and he's just hosting this special. And it's like, and it's another one where like that was like 2008, 2009. Like, this was like way late. It was like a decade plus after Copland, and you're just kind of like, is this where we are as a people, bringing in Geraldo? And the answer, I guess, was yes.
I got to make sure I read this note on the episode before we wrap up here. My very first note about Stallone, when you see him in the bar at the beginning of the movie, is that he's looking a lot like a Ray Romano. He's like
oh, wow.
Pokemon evolution. Like, if Ray Romano became an alcoholic and gained a bunch of weight, he would look like Stallone here.
I love that the beginning of the movie just establishes that like he's so pathetic, because like he's literally playing pinball. He watches the deal go down between cops and the bar. He literally opens up a parking meter to get more quarters because he wants to keep playing pinball.
Yeah.
And it just leads to Ray Liotta's line, "There's 2 types of people in this world, Freddie. Video game people and pinball people. And you're pinball people." And it's like, is that true? I don't think it is. I'm gonna need to check your math there.
If so, in the year of our Lord 2026, I think pinball people are a dying breed.
I would say so. Yes, 100%. But yeah, man, this movie rules, people. Like, if you've not seen Copland, like I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it's just so good. Like, it's, and I think I even mentioned this. One of my other favorite scenes is that scene at the carnival, because that carnival is an interesting kind of turning point in the movie, because it's kind of where everything's falling apart, and it's kind of where everything's starting to unravel at the seams. But they're still trying to pressure these guys, and they're still trying to threaten them. And that's when Robert Patrick is trying to threaten Freddy at this kind of carnival game, because he's trying to win this stuffed turtle, because he knows that Liz's kid has one of these stuffed turtles. And so it's a nice little throwback that like, hey, I recognize that turtle, and he's trying to win it so that he can give it to Liz, presumably. And he misses the first shot, and then Robert Patrick kind of comes up next to him and is just goading him, just really poking at him and just being like, oh, you're gonna have to make all 5 now, blah blah. And then Stallone just nails all 5 in a row. And I thought this was a really subtle way of just showing that it's a very subtle way for Stallone to almost intimidate him back, because it's a subtle way to show that, oh, maybe there's a little bit more under Freddy than we realize, but also it's a message to, like, I think it's Rucker is Robert Patrick's character's name, to be like, oh, maybe this guy won't quite be the pushover that we think he is. And obviously things still go the way they do, but I thought it was a nice little scene to just, as we're escalating to that finale, which is about to start, of showing, one, that Freddy has some prowess with firearms, because he never uses a gun the entire rest of the movie, basically. Right. And then also showing that even the intimidation by the characters isn't really working anymore, that it's all kind of starting to come apart. And Freddy wins that turtle. So good for him.
Copland, what a movie. I've recommended this movie to like 5 people in the past week, just because every time I watch it, I'm like, God, more people should see this. I'm like, have you seen this? Have you seen this?
Seen this? You heard about this?
All the dads in my life got a big wreck. It's so good. Andrew, farewell tour continues, and the theme is a little bit all over the place. We're kind of just cleaning up any movie that we feel like we have to cover before we sail off into the sunset. And coming up,
you could say we're tying up the loose ends.
You could say that, Andrew.
By drowning them in a above ground pool.
We have 2 pairs of films coming up that are basically 2 picked by me, 2 picked by you, of like, I want to personally cover this on our podcast before it's over. That's half of it. The other half is like, I want my co-host to see this movie, and the only way I can guarantee that he sees it is if I make it an episode of our podcast. So the first pair coming up is a movie selected by me, which is Alita Battle Angel. That's coming next week. That is the Robert Rodriguez manga adaptation from, I think, like 2019. I feel like it was right before the pandemic. That definitely didn't make enough money to make sequels, which makes me very sad. But the entry that we did get, I think, is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And people are aware of this movie, but I feel like flew under the radar just a little bit. And you haven't seen it yet, right? As of right now?
I don't think so. Like, I think I've seen clips. I think I like, because I know I've seen like certain pieces of it, but I know that I have not watched it start to finish. So I am looking forward to that. It was rumored to be directed by James Cameron for a long time. I think he still has some credits on it.
He's a producer on it,
before Rodriguez ended up taking it on. So I am excited to watch that and then dive into the story of Alita Battle Angel.
And following Alita is going to be a movie that you selected, Andrew, which is Attack the Block.
So good. You've never seen Attack the Block? You've never seen it?
No, it came up at some point in our podcast. Probably
John Boyega.
We're talking about episode 9. You're probably like talking about how good Attack the Block was, and you're like, "Have you seen it?" I said, "No." You're like, "Chris, don't look up anything about it. Just go watch the movie. We'll make an episode out of it." And here we are, finally gonna make an episode about it. So I have not watched it yet.
Those rules still apply. I need you to look up nothing about that movie.
I have not looked up specifics. I think based on like some of the posters I saw, I think I have an idea of what's going to be happening here, but I know nothing too specific. So I'm excited to dive into that. With 2, dive into that. That's coming up. I'm excited. So come back next week for Alita Battle Angel, and until then, just remember that maybe not every movie is great,
but all movies have greatness.
Thank you to Mark Benavides for singing our theme song. You can check him out on Instagram at NotThatMarkAnthony. Thanks to Mitch for the music. You can follow him on Blue Sky and check our show notes for that SoundCloud link. Check out our store on TeePublic for some Best of the Rest merch. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, because that's the only way that we grow. Follow us on social media at BOTRcast. Thank you.